Hi, and welcome to Module 3 on egoism. I'll start this one with a little story. When I was in grad school, one of my professors had moved over. He was a philosophy of science expert. That's what he studied, he wrote about, he taught. But he said back years ago he used to teach ethics. But he gave it up. He was at a large university where you could get away with not teaching everything that was offered. And he had quit teaching ethics because one day he went to an ethics class and he was giving a thought experiment. And I don't remember exactly what the thought experiment was trying to prove, but it was asking this question of how you would react, what your feelings would be, and how you would deal with the situation in which you had an identical twin, so a twin brother or twin sister that was identical, and you were both standing together, and a bolt of lightning hit and struck and killed your sibling, your twin, and how you would react. And he said the overwhelming response was, I'd just be glad it wasn't me. And he said he was flabbergasted and taken aback because the response wasn't one of, soul-wrenching devastation. It was instead that they were just happy to live. And he said it was a value theory that he said it's a value theory, but it's not really an ethical theory. And he said he couldn't relate to people who had that. Now, like I said, I don't remember exactly what it was, but essentially what egoism is saying, well, that's the appropriate response. That is a value. That is not just a value theory. It is the right ethical theory to accept. The theory of what works best for me works best for is best for everybody. If I am happy, then everybody is happy. And that's sort of what ethical egoism is about. It's saying you do what's best for you and don't worry about anybody else. And so that statement, while he was taken aback, he was basically saying he was taken aback by the number of people who had accepted ethical egoism as a theory, and he was not a happy camper about that and didn't want to be a part of discussing and having to relate and try to convince and teach people who accepted that. Well, I think that's probably I can definitely see why that would be disheartening, but I don't know that I would that I would throw in the towel, but that's what he did. And what egoism is basically saying is it comes from a Greek word for me or I, ego, and it basically means meism, and it's basically saying that whatever you do for yourself is what's right. If it makes you happy, then it's right. And the world's best off when everybody is selfish and looks out for themselves. It starts off with this idea of what we call psychological egoism, which is a descriptive theory that we are all selfish by nature. Everything we do has some level of selfishness within it. And then it goes on to say, well, we should all be selfish. And it looks at some of the older theories like Cyrenaism and Epicureanism, which are Greek theories of egoism, in which they basically endorse a form of selfishness. And then it brings it up into the more modern world. There were several big egoists in the last 30, 40 years of philosophy. Ayn Rand in the 1970s was a very popular egoist and very well regarded, wrote several books, and she basically it was a very popular theory, but basically it's saying, go out and do what's best for you and quit worrying about what everybody else is best for them. That the world works best when you go out, work hard, do what's best for you, and move along. And so that's what this entire theory is about. All right, as always, don't be afraid to ask me any questions if you have them. Email them, and if you see any errors, send those. That's a good chance to get some extra credit. And if you have anything else, send me a note.